Gibson, who previously served as Director of Intelligence for U.S. Central Command, and Senior Global Affairs Analyst Brett McGurk, who served in senior national security positions in the last 4 presidents, including President Trump's first term. General Gibson, what is the president's pessimism around any deal and his vague threat to blast the hell out of him signal to you? Because he's been sending a lot of, I guess, different signals.
Well, I think it signals that whatever new proposal it is that Iran has made, and I haven't seen that, I don't believe it's public, is not sufficiently different from the one that they proposed last week. And last week's was interesting, I thought, in that they sought to separate the issues of commerce and navigation from the nuclear issue. Let's solve the straits and the blockade first, and then we'll talk about our nuclear program. This would, if that's what we agreed to, lessen a lot of the economic pressure on them. If we continued with the ceasefire, it would also lessen the military pressure on them and allow them to enter probably long, very long, detailed, frustrating talks about their nuclear program from a position of less coercion.
Brett, what do you see in the president's statements? Because he also said his preference was not to restart the bombing campaign. What do you make of that?
I think, Anderson, there's a hope that the mounting economic pressure on Iran, and it is real, is going to cause them to change their position at the negotiating table, particularly on the 2 nuclear issues, which is mainly enrichment and the disposition of that highly enriched uranium stockpile. However, in my experience negotiating with the Iranians, Anderson, again, I think that's unlikely. This economic blockade is working, is really putting pressure on the Iranians, but Iran is a big country. They have 3,000 miles of borders. They have a 1,000-mile border with Iran. They have a 600-mile border with Pakistan. They have the Caspian Sea, direct access to Russia. So they're going to work to diversify, and that's going to happen over the coming months. And I think they can outweigh the president. And meanwhile, I think on our side, the assumption that the Iranians are going to deal with the nuclear issue right now, I think, is unlikely. And I'll say why, Anderson. I've sat across the table with the Iranians on the nuclear issue. They consider it's a weapons program. They want optionality for a weapon. It's their main instrument of deterrence. That doesn't mean they're moving forward towards a weapon right now, but that's why they demand on enrichment. And as the regime is more and more under existential threat, I think it's even more unlikely they put that on the table. It'd be rational for them to do so. They would get massive sanctions relief integrated into the global economy, but the way these guys think, I think it's unlikely. So I think, Anderson, we have a dual blockade stalemate right now. And the likely course of action is one of endurance and mounting economic pressure on Iran and on the global economy.
General Gibson, did Iran, during the Iran-Iraq war, didn't they withstand a lot of economic pain over the course of the 8-year war, not to mention the loss of a lot of human beings, a lot of their own people, and still continue fighting this war, which ultimately they made a deal on, but it took 8 years?
Certainly.
And I guess my question gets to, is economic pain enough of a pressure point for the Revolutionary Guard? I don't know if the Revolutionary Guard are the people who are dealing with the budget. I don't know if those are 2 different groups.
So certainly he makes some great points. Iran, the Islamic Republic, has shown an incredible ability to absorb pain, whether those are from kinetic shocks or economic pressure. There was also the economic pressure of the pre-JCPOA sanctions, the maximum pressure campaign of the Trump 1 administration. And I think we can look to other regimes like North Korea or Cuba and see that when a government feels that they are in an existential threat, as Brett has pointed out, they can withstand a tremendous amount of economic pressure. I do agree, though, that the blockade could be effective if applied persistently, if we have the patience to continue to apply it. It's certainly going to add greater pressure and accelerate some pre-existing economic conditions. It was the failing economy that drove the popular protests at the end of 25 and 26. But we would have to withstand disruption to the global economy through their control of the Straits of Hormuz while that blockade is ongoing, and that's a trade-off.
Yeah, Brett, I mean, is the Trump administration's willingness to withstand economic hardship for the American people as great as the Iranians' lack of concern for their people and willingness to withstand, have their people have economic hardship?
It's a great question. I think both sides are potentially misreading each other. The Iranians, I think, believe that the economic pressure globally will cause the president to back off. And we believe, again, there's a kind of a short-term path to the Iranians capitulating at the negotiating table. If we can sustain this for a period of many, many months, that's a big if. If we can sustain this, I think it can be quite effective over time. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. The kind of diversification away from the Strait of Hormuz, building new pipelines, building new infrastructure south of the Strait of Hormuz, this is all happening now. But that's going to take a period of years, really. So over time, Iran's position, I think, will degrade significantly. But again, it's a as we've been talking about, Anderson, from the first week of this war, it's two clocks. And the Iranians are prepared to really wait this out. There's always a chance, though. This economic pressure bites. You have uprisings again, as we saw earlier this year. But I would put that right now in a minority case scenario. I don't think it's likely in the near term.
And General Gibson, just briefly, we mentioned that while the president called the War Powers Resolution totally unconstitutional, his administration appears to be making an effort to at least acknowledge the law in that letter to congressional leaders.
Yes. And I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert, but I do understand that international law says that imposing a blockade on another nation is an act of war. So there would be interpretations of war that do not involve kinetic strikes, certainly.
Yeah. General Gibson, appreciate it. Brett McGurk as well. Thanks very much.